Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Black Lives Matter podcast. My name is Pierre Young, and I'm here with my co-host Fuad. This is first time on the podcast. Yeah, everybody. Yep. And today we'll be interviewing a person who I got to know recently. The small world out there, but she used to go to school where I used to work at McAllister College. She also knows my best friend. That's how we know each other. And she's just very nice, and she just became the program manager. I'd like to introduce you guys to Lizzie Hutchins, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello. Hi, listeners.
Lizzie, how you doing? Like, how you doing during these tough times in America? It's really bad out here right now.
Yes, thanks for asking. I mean, I feel a lot of different things. I think I'm someone who, I'm borderline. I feel a lot of things intensely, I guess. So I feel like I'm somewhat unable to not feel things. So I've been feeling a lot of sadness. I've been feeling a lot of grief. I've been feeling a lot of ambiguity and uncertainty. I've been feeling a lot of compassion and empathy for there's so much going on. And the fact that I live in the city that George Floyd was murdered has impacted me. And I can't speak even to all the ways that I feel like, the fact that I've lost a lot of sleep, the fact that I have no appetite, the fact that,
Sorry to hear that.
yeah. Anyway, I could say a lot more, but I'll wrap it up of just like I feel a lot of things right now.
Oh man. Oh yeah, I really feel you. It's like I felt the same way when Carlos Castillo was killed 4 years ago, and it just still haunts me to this day. Where it's just like I'm just get used to death every day. It's just like it always comes back to haunt me. It's just like you just gotta know how to handle it, because a lot of people don't know how to handle grief and stress. So that's just my whole pet peeve on death, and like how it like affects the whole globe. And just not trying to get emotional, but
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
Yeah.
Fuad, you have a question?
Oh, okay. Let's see. It's just any question?
Yeah, same question.
Okay. Let's see. Can police self-defense be mistaken for brutality?
Can police say sorry?
Can police self-defense,
self-defense,
be mistaken for brutality?
Well, the way you phrase that question, I think police brutality in America is not just murder. Police brutality is an overwhelming presence in your neighborhood. Police brutality is showing up with, a full-on, head-to-toe riot gear for something that does not require that level of action. So I do not believe that any police in the United States has, self-defense. No, I don't. But I know that police have been trained to think that the situations they're somehow entering are going to be very hostile and very dangerous. However, I think taxpayers are paying money for them to protect others, so their self-defense is kind of forfeited in that way. They need to act out of care for others, not out of care for themselves. in that sense. Like, I think police actions are right. It's been not a matter of whether or not we've caught these brutal moments on film or not. It's not a question of if we know people who've experienced it, but it's a question of fundamentally, why have we chosen police to have this extreme power and the extreme ability to act in ways that I myself would not act in self-defense. I do not, right? I do not carry a gun. I do not. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'll leave it there. I hope that's such a complex question, Fuad. I don't know if I answered it very well, but
No, you got it. It's just, so what I'm getting at is, you think that police just have way too much power over civilians.
correct.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Like for me, it's just like I don't really bother carrying a gun. It's just, I don't know. It's just not me. It's just like, I mean, if I want to protect myself, it's just like I have these cosplay swords in my basement, and it's just like they're replicas, and like they can easily scare people away if that ever happened to me, if I'm in danger. And it's just like, I don't know. It's just like with guns, it's just like I don't know. They're kind of, oh, it's just kind of just not my style to live with, and just like just don't want even that in my spirit. But I do know some family members that do want to live that lifestyle where it's like they want to have guns to protect themselves from either from the evils of society or police officers, even for that matter. But the gun control, that's a whole another topic. But um oh so do you think that all lives matter is flawed to Black Lives Matter, Lizzie? Like what's your take on, like, what's the, like, versus those two groups? Like, what do you think of that?
Yeah, well, so Black Lives Matter came about in more direct, like the I'd say that phrasing, right, came out of Michael Brown's murder by police, specifically in Ferguson, Missouri. And I think it's become this fantastic way to summarize, I think, ways to come back at, again, the I think all lives matter is flawed because it's ignoring how the system of power and systems, interconnected systems of power, has created this artificial norm, this artificial ideal of being a white person, being a straight white person, being a straight white male person, and has also then enacted this other way to try and use violence against and use policy decisions and all of this stuff to keep anyone who does not fit that norm outside of any power themselves and stuff. So again, a complex question. I'm not sure I'm doing it quite justice, but as a white allied person, I acknowledge that I can't, for me to say Black Lives Matter is, again, to attempt to bring others into awareness that, Black lives have historically, presently, and going forward will continue to be, I think, essential workers here in the US. Starting with, the the Atlantic slave trade, and to very presently the ways that COVID-19 and essential workers, as the government has deemed them, tend to be disproportionately Black lives. And it would Black Lives Matter is about the centering and the amplification of Black and brown voices, because Black Lives Matter, and will be what we need when we go forward. And
narrowing the focus. Is that what you mean?
right, Black lives, yes, they matter, and they need to be considered when it comes to the fact that, you know, every day certain conversations, right? That's an interpersonal thing, but then institutions aren't welcoming or are, you know, hostile. And then you also have the systems. So again, how, you know, the history of racial covenants, so that's written into the deeds, has prevented Black lives and Black families from being homeowners, which is a whole another, you know, level of, again, power. And then, you know, Black Lives Matter because they should be they are participating fully in society, yet are not being recognized for that participation, or being properly properly respected.
Or
right?
manage.
What's that?
Or manage or something like that, or is this like they like kind of build their own kind of community or something?
Well, I think, you know, to have the fact that we can talk about it's a problem if we only have these like very touchstone people to look to like be like Martin Luther King. Well, he was a single person. Let's acknowledge all of the other people who were deeply involved in organizing around the civil rights.
It's just
of
like
the 60s. So Black Lives Matter in its organization also is remarkable because it is non-hierarchical. It is truly, you know, democratic, and that more people, you know, have risen and have, you know, organized around this. But the three co-founders also, three incredible Black women.
Always gotta respect them because they did as much hard work as Martin Luther King Jr.
Correct.
It's like they fought for us and died for it, and like I always have to respect that every day as a Black man. This every day. Fuad, did you have another question that you want to ask?
Yes. Should civilians review boards supervise police misconduct? Or should regular people be in councils and review like any situations with police?
Yes, and what's happening here in Minneapolis, the move towards defunding the police, I think, is opening up more space for these types of community-led efforts to keep those who are sworn in to protect and serve our communities actually have an investment in it and aren't, you know, coming to the work with their own like really problematic ideologies. So I think if citizens were also compensated for that time, I don't think citizens should necessarily feel like, oh, it's just my civic duty to do this. Though that is important too, maybe, right? Like thinking about how, as someone who lives in a community, what other roles do you serve beyond, you know, okay, I might have this occupation, I might be a mother, I might be a sister, all of those things. So my short answer is yes, there should be. I don't know quite what that looks like. And I think a lot of people are trying to figure that out. But for too long, we've had, I mean, even the history of who decides the ratings on films. I don't know if you know this, but there's like a really small committee and they have not released who they are. But yet they are somehow this like moral and ethical, like, you know, why do they get to decide what makes a movie,
Right.
rated R versus rated for everyone? And it usually is filtered through a very specific, generally white, generally like
Yep.
narrow-mindedness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just reminds me that speaking of like rated R movies, it's like they always gotta like kill off the black guy in horror films. It's like why is this? It's always been this trend where it's just like the black guy always dies first. It's like why is that happening? Is this like
Or it's the black guy is the bad guy.
yeah like why is it always the bad guy? And it's like and you rarely even see the white person be the bad guy, or like any other minority where he can be the bad guy and then the black guy's the good guy. Is
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's just I don't know, it's just I think we just downgrade our society. A lot of people say that like slavery like downgrades us as a society. When we see those movies about slavery, we downgrade us as a society. But it's just like it just reminds us of the history. But it's like for example, Django Unchained. That's a good movie with Jamie Foxx, where he was the good guy and he was just killing those slave owners. Like, and that's why I love to see it. So it's like, and I love Jamie Foxx. By the way, he's a great actor. It's like that's a good example of like just change in the film industry. But that's a good movie. If you haven't seen it, you can go check it out.
Django? I've seen Django, yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. Lizzie, have you seen it?
I actually haven't, just because though I will see anything Jamie Foxx is in, but I know how sort of violent it is, and I actually don't care for
yeah.
Tarantino specifically, but yeah. Have either of you seen 12 Years a Slave?
Oh, I haven't seen that movie. I heard it's really emotional.
I haven't seen that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, my take on that, having seen it and then read more criticism about it, is, why? So it's a movie that depicts this, right, like history of slavery, but I think the audience is very much intended for white people, because it disregards like the fact that if you are a Black person or a person of color, you probably internalized a lot of, again, the like violence and the right, like it's not a history that you have to have like displayed in that way to you generally, right? Like it's a story that you might just have heard before,
Yeah.
Yeah. Shifting back towards the society, how people can handle this during these times. How can society reflect themselves after going through these like tough times?
I mean, how can society, and you do mean like US, right?
Yes, the USA. Yep.
Yeah. So many ways. I think one way is just to think really hard about who we've let be in power and how that power operates. I think it's also good to seek out as many, again, Black voices, Black perspectives, Black commentary, Black art. And I think, part of my journey towards collective liberation has been to acknowledge where my holes are and where I can do more to understand, and to listen. So I think society needs to be listening. Society needs to stop creating even more harm, I'd say, by just continuing to be like, what? And rather be a little more compassionate. And yeah, if you are someone who hasn't maybe, like done the work, the daily work, right, to undo your own, prejudices and biases, and unpacking just how your lived experiences were shaped by these systems, then I think you can't really show up in a bigger way until you've done that work. So society as a whole needs to create a lot more space for that sort of deep reflection before, again, leaping to even the sort of, again, well-intentioned, shall we say, right? The like trying to do something, but the trying to do something, if it's short-sighted or misguided, then no, no, thank you.
Yeah. It's just like definitely what my mom has taught me throughout this pandemic. It gives people an opportunity to think like, what am I gonna do in my life? Like, what am I gonna do to make things better? And it's just like, for me, it's just like, I'm a guy I'm a Black person where it's just like, I like video games, I like this, and I spend my money on all of them, but it's just like, I need to go even be above and beyond. Like for example, for the podcast, I'm just reaching out, talking to people, talking to my community. I'm very well known in Metro State. I know a lot of resources where people get some help as a CTEP and student government and an IT person. I think just making change in the society it takes just not one person, but just like everybody needs to take a stand. But because life can take its turns and directions, and it's like you don't want to crash and burn into the next issue that you face. But I'm just very glad that I can set example for African Americans. Fuad, did you have another question?
Yeah. Do you think this Black Lives Movement, do you think it will make bigger impact than I think the last few years? At least
I don't have oh, go ahead, sorry.
At least this time around, because I remember I think the word itself, Black Lives Movement, was used in 2015, was started being used, but then nothing happened then, and then 2016 came through, nothing, and then 2017, when I think Castile, what was his name?
Ronald Castile.
Yeah, when he died, I think that sparked a little bit some movement and stuff, but then nothing actually happened. But now, when Floyd died,
yep,
it made a bigger impact. And do you think society now will act and change for the better?
I certainly hope so. I certainly think there's been a greater there's been more time because of the way that the pandemic has, caused people, I think, to slow down. At the same time, though, it's troubling when everyone says, let's go back to normal, because no, thank you. Normal was actually really terrible. And I just want to read something, and I think it summarizes kind of a lot of the things that we need to be facing as we go forward. I think there's many ways that I wish I knew her name, but there was this really impassioned Black woman speaking about, this idea of the social contract, and that from the very beginning, there's been, lack of, again, protection and respect and equal treatment, right? So this again just kind of makes me think of, there's so much to do. So a social norm, to be sane, to be white, to be cultured, to be straight, isn't a fixed truth. It's not set in time, and it has nothing to do with nature. Dominant social norms are
Uh-huh.
ideals, packaged as a truth, enforced by a system predicated on violence. They overlap to create a moving script that we mentally and bodily perform, creating us as individuals. Beatrice Preciado calls these living political fictions, in which the body is the principal character. People closer to the norms are granted certain privileges, while still being asked to naturalize misery and guilt. Those further from them are deemed errant or beyond reason, surplus and less than human, pathological or criminal. So again, society needs to really decide, and I think, it's a choice that society can make to do away with white supremacy, do
Mhm.
away with the ways that yeah, continually
Mhm.
white people are asked to, again, just sort of naturalize what's going, or like create, like, oh, it's normal, this is normal, and it's like, no, it's actually not.
Yeah.
And we can do our best to I mean, we have to do better.
Yeah, so like us doing better, and as the youth, witnesses like this pandemic, and like these killings, these police killings, is just like, how can we set an example for the youth to teach about racism, because they're confused. It's just like, like my 11-year-old niece, she's doesn't really know that much about, the systematic racism in our society, and that she barely knows about. I think she barely knows about it in school, and just like just how can we even teach the kids, like, because they're gonna be all wondering, and when they grow up, is just like, how can they even survive?
That's a question. I mean, it is a question. Yeah, someone who's been in spaces teaching, I think we need to examine why certain things make the curriculum, why other things seem to be, oh, we don't have time for that, or yeah, really wondering, like, what are we preparing young people for? If education could look a lot more multicultural, a lot more like culturally, not just, I mean, culturally inclusive and responsive, and education that is also, you know, freely given, I guess, education that is not somehow reserved for people who prove themselves to be, oh, you're really smart, or oh, you're, we need education for everyone. And it should be a space that people come to with the understanding and, belief that everyone has like autonomy.
Mhm.
Right? I think
Yep.
school tends to, you know, lie a lot. Schools will only sort of enforce certain things, and I don't know. I think the young people need to be, you know, again, respected in that they have a lot of perspective to bring, and that it's like going to school shouldn't be about somehow like they need to like be molded, right?
Right.
It's rather that if they show up, that they have these questions and are, grappling with a lot of the things that society is grappling with. We just don't call it the same things, I suppose, right? Like justice, we kind of equate with fairness, but then we don't really do a great job like explaining what those things are. And again, in America, there's been just way too much focus on somehow ignoring, right? Using these systems to uphold a lie. The lie that, is that, oh yes, like America, everyone is free here. Everyone is, everyone's the American dream, right? Everyone can succeed here.
Mhm.
I think that's fundamentally flawed. So
Yeah, it's like we don't want. Apparently, it's been called the American nightmare. You know,
mm,
it's just like we gotta get out of that nightmare and just get rid of the orange one in the office. It's like I talk about him all the time. It's just like he just doesn't really care, and just like I can rant about him right now, but it's just like that would really make me upset. But it's just like gotta get him out of there. It's just there's no ins and outs. We gotta get him out of there. Paul, you had another question?
Yeah, let me see. They're all tough questions.
Love it.
Oh man.
Thanks for sitting with us, Lizzie, on this.
Yeah. Do you think? I guess police and their actual job. Do you think that has something to do with their, I guess, the stress in their job causes them to act differently, do something unexpectedly or something they don't normally do? Do you think that may be a cause?
I think there's a lot to unpack there. I would say that police officers, the culture within policing has been toxic for a really, really long time. And again, we need to examine why we've let this sort of hyper masculine, right? Like the majority of police officers are men, the hyper white. So again, that's significant. And then just also the sheer number, the fact that suddenly, we've increased the budget for more police. So all of those, I think, has contributed to this sense of inflated, like, yeah, we have to be like rough and tough, and the rough and toughness is what defines us. And we can go out and we are the ones who have to like be like excessively stressed or like excessively vigilant and excessively alert. Yet so many problems or reasons that police are called is it just doesn't require that level of, again, sort of truly toxic and like unhelpful and just like problematic behaviors. So while there are ways I think people wanted to believe that reform was possible, that like, oh, we just need to, we got to give police another chance. I actually quite disagree with that. I think we need to hand it over to community and put more money into the social work infrastructure and all of those much more compassionate, calm, truly women-centered, or at least, creating something that cannot be as easily corrupted, I guess, because that's also it. There's, again, like weird ways that, not just weird, but like racist ways that, and like capitalist ways that police officers are, again, like somehow exempt from certain things, and they really, 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 really shouldn't be.
Yeah, I believe women are the future. That's what I think, because not just in police, but in anything else, legislator, in anything else. I feel like they're just, I don't know, they're much more, I believe they're much more calmer when it comes to this stuff. And so if we had more women, I feel like we would have less issues.
Thanks. And I agree that like the way forward, right, is going to have to be hyper collaborative and hyper, right, like again, bringing everyone to it. And I think women are just more practiced in bringing people together. And it's not that, you know, women can't teach that way, but we can certainly.
Yeah.
Definitely. With so much hatred towards women, it's just like, you know, I feel so bad. Like, you know, look what happened to Hillary. They were talking shit about her so much. It's just like, it was nonstop. It's just like, and, you know, some people will, oh, Trump wasn't supposed to win. It's like, of course he wasn't supposed to win. It's just like, you know, they don't give women a chance to be strong. It's like they just don't want to. And it's just like America bit itself in the foot, and you know, it's just like here we are in 2020. It's just like we just keep making those same mistakes, you know, with the Republicans. Not like from a Democratic and a Republican point. It's from a human being point. It's like if I want somebody, women in charge of me my whole life, and you know, it's like, and they always pull me through, you know. Always like stood me up, and you know, just keep on going towards the path that I need to go on, and you know, it's just like I don't think we give women the credit they deserve. And, you know, it's like, and that's a dream where it's just like we'll finally have a woman president in office. It's just it's just gotta happen, and we have to accept it. Even if the apple falls from the rotten tree, it's just like, you know, it's gonna happen. You know, it's just.
No, society is just afraid of change. I feel like if they added women,
I agree.
If they added women, that would bring a lot of change to a lot of things. So they're afraid of not getting used to something new.
Yeah, change is always good. Oh, I'm so sorry. Let's see. I only got a couple more questions. Okay, so the next question is, you know, since we're dealing with this whole systematic racism, like, and, you know, it's been going on and on and on for like the last like hundreds of years, and just how's the system of racism changed in the last century?
Woof. Yeah, it's changed in that in the last century, the industrialization of this nation, and again, the sort of, I mean, the wars and the destruction and the level of violence and hatred has only, I think, increased. So yeah, but racism has evolved in, again, ways that, you know, there are figures in our society like Beyonce or Oprah or, I mean, we could probably fill a whole list of, again, like very successful Black individuals, but that's neglecting the sort of like really privileged other circumstances that came about, and again, to hold them up as like, well, they succeeded, so therefore anyone else can, is not helpful. And you know, it's just continued in ways, racism, in that for a long time, right, it became associated with, oh, if you grew up in like the South, or if you had ties to like the Confederacy during the Civil War, then like that made you racist. Rather than examining, you know, in the North, it just looked different. It wasn't overt, it was covert racism. And racism pervades in other spheres, such as, I mean, the rapid commerce, right? And the fact that, you know, the amount of wealth that exists in the world, like how much of that is actually in the hands of Black people, or people of color. Like it's just not. So racism has only continued, I guess. And I don't want to get too far away from this question, but changed in the last century. I mean, again, it's seemingly less tied to history, but I think it actually is, right? Like there's a you know, importance to understand all the different inflection points, but know that, like, I mean, right, Michelle Alexander's book, right, The New Jim Crow, I think is one to look to for explaining a lot of the like same old BS, but repackaged in this new way. And you know, it's also gotten more confused, or like you know, there are you know, just from a population standpoint, the number of mixed race or biracial individuals has also increased. So racism has also, you know, I guess, unfortunately become, you know, once again, like this insidiousness that pervades. I mean, gosh, I can't think of his name right this second. Oh no, director of Get Out, Jordan Peele.
Oh, Jordan Peele. Oh,
Yeah,
I love that
Jordan,
guy. Yes.
Yeah,
Oh.
I think Jordan Peele's the one we should be listening to as well, about how he is articulating the horrors of trying to live in like liberal and white liberal America, and
He did everything right. And I love that movie, by the way, and Us. Yeah, that's two really good movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're just gonna ask one more question each. Vlad, do you have any more questions for Lizzie?
No, I have no more questions. I just.
Thanks for all your amazing questions.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Oh, really hard to come up with. Vlad, you came with some questions too, Vlad. Thank you. I only have one more question for you. Getting back to the whole police matter, do you even think we can get rid of police brutality? Like all this, like these changes, and like will it even bring more violence? But you know, that's just a question that everybody has in mind. Like, can we like just get rid of like brutality, just period?
No, I mean, again, I'm hopeful that enough people are coming together to face this reality. And for people who, again, want to keep changing the subject, that we remind them of the subject and remind them of the responsibility that I think everyone has in creating a better future for everyone, truly everyone, right? It's one thing, you know, there's actually a lot of research that's gone into, you know, when you examine people's values, that like a better future for their children is actually like one of the biggest values, right? If you have a family. But again, if it's not for everyone, if your solution is, you know, very self-centered and, you know, only rooted in truly just like, again, without considering everyone else's lived experiences. It's not to negate that your lived experiences, again, don't have merit or value, and like it speaks to how you will go forward. But unless you can reconcile and understand where everyone else is coming from, then how do you expect, you know, like, so with police brutality in particular, we have to begin with dismantling that power, dismantling that outrageous sense of like authority, and just be like, look, there are different solutions, and you know, again, it's it's a system that, or institution, then like directly tied to government, only only protects, right, and serves certain people. Does not serve and protect Black lives. And they've proven that time and time again. So police, goodbye. We don't need you anymore. That's how I feel.
Nah.
Very non-eloquent way. Goodbye.
Hey.
We'll be calling you, you know, though as a white woman, I have to maybe, you know, go personally knock on the doors of all the Karens and Carols and Beckys and be like, stop.
Yeah.
Stop. Your fear is unfounded. Stop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's just like I totally wanted to say on the last core day that we had, don't be a dick to people. Yeah, it's just it's very heart sickening, and you know, just it's evil in this world, evil in their hearts. It's just like just like we want world peace, but it's just like we're not peaceful. You know, just and I just those are just my thoughts as a Black man, where it's just like just gotta, you know, man up, and then just, you know, just put people, put not only white people, but like put people in their place that don't even know about, you know, like privilege. And you know, it's just like I had this conversation with Overwatch gamers in a group where it's just like, oh, all lives are mad, all lives are mad. I'm just like, I educate them. I put my education mode. I was just like, you know what? I'm an educated Black man that just believes that Black lives matter, and you know, it's just like you guys have that privilege. It's like I didn't say it like that, but it's just like I said it all calmly. I just didn't. Yeah, I was like, okay, these guys are weird. I gotta get out of here. Oh man, look. Yeah, I appreciate you coming with us, Lizzie. Talking with us, Lizzie. Everyone, thank you for tuning in to this podcast. This Thursday, my next guest is Hamisha, who is my student senate president at Metro State, and she's very knowledgeable too about race, and me and her are really good friends, and yeah. So like, thanks so much, Lizzie, for our conversation and time, and yeah, thank you for
Thank you, Lizzie.
Thank you. Great to meet you, Vlad, and thank you, Pierre.
Co-host, and yeah, you guys have a good one.
You too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Be well.